Hello everyone, thank you all for coming. I'm Yoeri STAAL from STAAL Media. I'm going to talk about Wild Wild West and project management in general. The game is not released yet, we're in full production. So first I'll start with saying a bit about my company. My company is STAAL Media, and before I can really explain how my way of project management works, I'll first show how other people do it and then show what the big difference is. So first of all, we all know the AAA companies with the high budgets and the major titles and large marketing budgets and a lot of stakeholders that really want the money that they invested back. And because of that, they take safe choices, right? So they don't really like to take risks because you never know if the money that you put in is going to return. On the other side of the spectrum, there's the indies or the studios. They're usually much smaller, they have lower budgets, and they usually work on one project at a time because that takes the focus of everyone in the studio. They will take bigger risks, of course, because they have to get their name in the industry. And then, well, there's me. And on paper, my company exists of only me, no budgets whatsoever. I always invest whatever money I make with games and invest it into the next project. I do hire a lot of people to do whatever I need. So if I need an animator, I'll get an animator. If I need a coder, I'll get a coder. But I never work with a contract. So that means that whoever is working for me can leave right now, today. And the people that still stay with me, well, without being paid a regular hourly salary or anything, it means that they really love the game that they're working on, which I think is a very great motivation, because the second that the money flow starts, you're going to lose the people that are only in it for the money. And I've had a lot of difficult times with money just not flowing in at the rate that we needed. And some people still stayed, including some people at Wild Wild West. So, what is Wild Wild West anyway? It started life as Hell Train, which is also the code name that we're constantly using in development. And that was a variant of the name of Hellworm. Hellworm was basically started as a effing Worms clone that someone showed to me, and I thought, well, the first thing you need to do when you're making a clone, because I really don't like making clones, but you can always base your game on some kind of mechanic, is take out whatever is making it recognizable as a clone. So the first thing that needed to go was the worm, and that is why I replaced it with a train. This is a concept sketch from the very first version. This worm had a Gatling gun on his back, shooting at enemies. And I thought, okay, well, that is awesome. How am I going to put that on a train? And what am I going to do with the theme? Well, the first theme, I thought, where do you put a train? In the Wild West. Okay, but how do I explain that there's a huge Gatling gun on top of my train? So I introduced another genre, and that is why Wild Wild West became a science fiction Western. And then suddenly you get all the freedom that you need, because I can take tropes from the Western genre, and I can take tropes from the science fiction. So for example, the first thing I did was take out the horses, which were too difficult to animate anyway, and replace them with bikes. And I thought, well, since we're there anyway, let's make the bandits female, masked, etc. A little bit of fan service, guys. So what do you do then? You start to do research. So I went reading a lot of Lucky Lukes. I had a stack of them at home. It's a comic about a cowboy. And basically every trope you can ever think of is there. I also have the game Bang, which is a cowboy-themed card game. And it's also full of tropes. So you have the dynamite, you have the undertaker, you have the sheriff, etc., etc., etc. And I happen to know a gun instructor who's also part of my team here at Casual Connect. So I asked him about, well, what kind of person would carry what kind of gun. So when the game is finished, you'll see a lot of characters. I mean, we have a cast of about 12 people. and everyone is carrying the gun that really, really fits the personality of the character. So, well, if I know a gun instructor and I go to the United States for the other Casual Connect, why not go to a US shooting range, right? To really feel for myself what I'm talking about. And this is where I take the example from other people, for example, Pixar. Before they made Finding Nemo, they told the entire animation team to go scuba diving. So they really understood the physics underwater and the visuals. The same thing happened with James Cameron. He made a documentary about the deep sea. And he went all the way to the bottom of the sea in some kind of weird submarine all by himself. But the amount of dedication that shows, I really have a lot of admiration for that. So, well, then we went into the concept stage. Yes, so I made a list of all the characters that you would see in a typical Western. So the Undertaker, the Sheriff, the Banker, the Doctor, etc. And I had them all conceptualized because I wasn't sure at this time who I was going to put into my game and who not. However, because I had all these concepts for all these characters, I thought, well, why not put all of them in? Of course, that creates a huge amount of material, so I split it up in multiple parts. So this is the concept material. On the left you have the Sheriff, on the right you have the Queen of the Bandits, and then the animator left. So this was basically the first guy that was in my team. He decided the complete style of the game, and then he left. Because, well, when you're with me, you can leave whenever you want. So if they get another project or anything, they can just run off. So we had to basically redo everything. But I always count from the start that I know that I'm going to lose people, so it's not that bad. So this is one of the characters that completely evolved during design. There was a doctor at first, but because all the characters, except for the bandit, were male, I decided to turn it into a female. So on the left you see the doctor that's never going to make it into the game. Then you see the nurse that it become. And then you see the next animator that basically took information from it, but created the new style of the game. So now I had a coder, and I had an animator, and everything was awesome. And then the game development came into a free fall. I could basically do anything because I had such a great team, and I forgot to really set the boundaries. So the story became bigger, more characters were added, and yes, I was too ambitious. I mean, we have cutscenes, we have everything. We have voice acting, there's even a Hollywood actors doing the voice acting for the main hero, etc. So you need to somewhere draw the line. Well, at this point in development, I was just going all the way. I mean, there was just no stopping. Oh, that was too far. So I had to split it up. So I made a trilogy by design. I basically split up the game in 3 parts, just like the Lord of the Rings. I mean, he was unable to make the movie in 1 piece, so why not split it up in 3? Which also creates 3 layers of storyline. So there is one major storyline that overlaps all 3 games. Then there is one major storyline for each part. So the new story starts and ends basically the same way as a television show, a television series that runs for a long while. You have an episode, but you also have a season story that starts at the start of the season and usually has a season finale, and then they start over in the next season. So what's the story of Wild Wild West in short? You are some hero from outside the city, and you get called into the city to protect a train, because outside the city, bandits are constantly attacking all the loads. Well, you get the train, you know how to handle a Gatling gun, so good luck. However, this would be a very generic shooter, but because I have this animator, I made the story really complex, and you really get between the missions and during the missions, you get a storyline. So sometimes you have to carry explosives, but you also know why you are doing that. And the story progresses with the people that you meet, basically a method similar to what you can see in Grand Theft Auto, for example. You meet new people, you get new missions, and that all crossed with a shooter game. And then eventually one of the villagers gets murdered, and because you are the new guy in town, you get the blame and you have to run. And that is the mission that I'm showcasing here at the Indie Prize Showcase, which some of you already have played. So how am I making the money anyway? I always pay out of my pocket, so whatever the money is that I made on the previous game, I invest into the next one, and then just hope for the best. You might remember the red paperclip scenario where someone would trade a red paperclip for something else, something small, and then trade it again for something bigger and something bigger and something bigger until he was trading cars and houses and everything. But he really started out with a red paperclip. I also tried to get into the game funds, which is a fund from well, indirectly from the Dutch government for gamers. So I wrote a whole story that why they should give me the money to develop my game, and I showed them a lot of art. And then they said, well, sorry guy, but this is basically the same thing as all the other guys, the same amount of quality. It's good, but it's the same amount of quality. And then I thought, well, that is actually a compliment, because there's only one guy working for me, and all the other guys have like big studios and all. So I basically took it as a compliment. However, it was sad that I didn't get the money, because then I would really, really have made an awesome game. So the next step, well, might be Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I haven't tried that yet. Besides a game developer, I'm also a teacher. And my students have to also make games sometimes. And the thing with the students is that they love deadlines. They really like to hear when they need to finish something and then actually finish it in time. They have these fixed schedules because they have so many subjects, and they deliver their stuff in time. One thing I did with my class was I split it up in programmers and designers, because if you create a group completely out of programmers, fine, but then the end product might not be so nice, and they don't understand how the other people think. And on the other hand, if you have a group only of designers, then it might look good, but then they don't even know how to program the game. So I split it up in two, then mixed and matched all those, and then everything works out. This is going to be important later on, because this is a great backup for when someone drops out. So always get multiple designers and get multiple coders. And I should have listened to my own advice in this case. So then I got an invitation for Casual Connect right here. Well, that's awesome, because now I had a deadline, and now I knew exactly what I had to finish. So I had something to show here in the showcase. Then I had a goal, instead of just adding and adding and adding more stuff. We know where we were going. I could instruct the team, and we just went for it. So at conferences like these, I speak a lot of my indie colleagues and marketing people. And basically, a lot of people told me to just scrap the whole thing, because a shooter with cutscenes, yeah, you shouldn't do that. You should either just focus on the action or focus on telling a story. But the mixing, nah, don't. However, if you are in this stage of development, I mean, half the game is already finished, including all the cutscenes and stuff. The further you get into project development, the more expensive it becomes to make a change. On the first day, you can make any kind of change. It's just another line on a piece of paper. However, the further you are in project development, you have more people that have to be adjusted. So if you are at the stage of like a prototype, changing something in a prototype means changing a lot of code instead of just one line. And it is even worse when some game is already released in production, because, well, try to send an update to everyone, fixing whatever you were trying to fix. So then the coder left. And I had one coder. And this happened today, 3 weeks ago. And, well, I don't know if any of you know ActionScript 2, but I don't. And this coder was from Russia, so all his commenting was in Russian. So 3 weeks ago, I had no game. And coders are irreplaceable, let's put it that way. Because the animator, sure, you can get a new animator that can match the style, perfect. But if you have code that is undocumented properly, you are not going to make any good changes to it at all. So, well, kind of failed there. So what did I do? I remade the game from scratch. The game I'm showing here is something I made in the past 2 weeks, like working really hard on it, programming it myself. But we're here, right? And that's the point. This also means room for improvement. I mean, if you scrap a project, you can just start over and make the decisions in another way. You've already went into a certain direction, you know what went wrong, what went right, and just basically start over. Luckily, the animator was still there, so I had the assets. So whatever I was producing in just 2 weeks, it was going to look good anyway. For example, this stuff. I mean, this is awesome. On the top left is the concept art for this guy on a bike. Then to the left is a 3D model of the same guy. Then I took 36 pictures from all around the guy. So then you have a fake sprite sheet of a 3D model. So now I can pretend like the game is 3D. Well, actually it isn't. And I also use a toon shade filter, which basically means that the colors are flat with black outlines. So they would exactly match the cutscenes that are completely hand-drawn. So when you play the game, at a certain point, you completely lose track of which technique you're actually watching. So I have 3D models that you can look from all sides, while still they can have their mouths lip sync perfectly, which is a technique that I'm not even sure if I've ever seen that before. Another thing awesome about Wild Wild West is the AI. I have a background in artificial intelligence, so that was where a lot of the focus went. I made 2 things that have to do with AI. One is the chase AI, which means that all the enemies get a target. So for example, you tell them to attack the train from the left side, and they will do whatever they need to do to attack from the left side. So they will calculate their relative speeds and their target position, etc. And the result looks really awesome, because you can actually get ambushed by these guys. They can surround your train, etc. And while I was doing the chase AI anyway, I also made a steady cam. So this train, the camera will automatically focus on whatever is trying to attack you, and steady the camera while doing so, which is very useful because you try shooting from a driving train. So what's the future of the game? Well, I'm going to finish the first game. Like I said, it is a trilogy. I'll just finish the first one, see how it goes. The story will still be open at the end, just like in a TV series. So I hope that a lot of people will also want to watch and play the second game. And if the first game makes a lot of money, then the second game will have a much higher production value again, because hey, I'm going to invest whatever money I make from anything. I will probably port the game through Unity. I mean, I have all the 3D models, so why not? And Flash, well, I'm still working in Flash just because that's a language that I know, but I don't think there's much future in Flash in general. And then, of course, develop the second and the third game. And that was my talk.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Anyone? Okay, so this is a story. You was making game, designer left, you hire a new one. Then
Yes.
coder left.
I coded it myself.
You coded it in yourself, and the game is not finished yet, and it's not published yet. So, what's the main conclusion of this talk? What's I don't know? What's the lessons we should learn from this?
That you should calculate for failure, because things are going to fail. And even if you calculate for failure, recalculate again, because things can go wrong and things can go even worse and even worse. Even if you calculate for the worst, then it can still go wrong even more than you ever expected. Like in my case, when I lost everyone.
Are you thinking about doing a contractor work with with programmers? So
Never.
Why?
Because now it's very easy to just replace someone. I mean, I work with people not in my studio, but from all over the world through the internet. So if someone just goes away, like disappears for a while, I can just replace them and not be stuck with contracts.
Great.
Yeah, so this is first game, right?
No.
No,
I made a lot of games before.
So how much did you actually invest in this game so far in order to create it to this position where it is right now, if I may ask?
Money-wise, how much money is already in this game? Well, this MacBook is more expensive than my entire budget. That should answer your question, right?
Hi. Is there anything you would have done differently?
I would probably have put multiple people in the same roles. So multiple coders that have to somehow work together and document properly so they can work together. And multiple artists. By now I have like 5 artists on the same project instead of 1. So that's already a step forward, but I should do the same thing with coding as well.
Okay, well, one more question. Going forward, would you use the same model, or would you like consider revenue share for any of the on your team or anything?
That's a good question. Revenue share or flat fee or hourly rate, right? Those are basically the options. Well, what I do is I do have a revenue share model with a few people, especially the most expensive ones, or I use a flat fee if someone makes me a proper offer that I think, okay, this money I can miss right now. The thing with a revenue share model is that you challenge people to make the stuff as good as possible, right? If you are part of the team, then and you have like a 10% share, then the better the game is, the more money you are going to get in the end, right? So I usually get a lot of discussion from people like, oh no, I want a bigger market share, a bigger revenue share. But if everyone gets 20% and I have 10 people, then that's going to be problematic. So I always say it's not about how big the size, how big the part of the pie you're going to get. Let's just all bake a much bigger pie, okay?
What about calculating the revenue share on how much time they spent? So you would like combine the hourly rate with the revenue share. Would that be an option? Did you follow me?
Well, if they're working for a revenue share and leave the project halfway, they get nothing. Is that what you mean?
No, like more if someone on the team has spent 100 hours doing something, then it calculates into, if you say like half of all your revenue is set aside for your team to share, and then it's just the percentages, and the longer you work on the team, the more revenue, the more percentages of those 50% you get. Would that be a model?
Well, I never work with a hourly rate because I do not know how many hours people spend on it. Because they are not in my office, like my animator is from Jakarta or something, from the other side of the planet. I do not know how many hours he spends. So also, if you have an hourly rate, then people will just say that they spend more hours on something. They will just work slower and still get the same amount of money. So instead, I give them either a revenue share or a flat fee, and they will work as fast and as well as possible.
Thank you.
More question? No? Okay.
So the guy on the left side, that's the sheriff?
No, that's the main hero.
The main hero?
Yes.
The main hero looks suspiciously like you.
Yes, I know. And that's a very good question. Is your question why?
Well, the question is why.
Okay, that's a good one.
Thank you.
So the thing is, I said people can leave my project at any time, especially if the money isn't there. But my animator is still here. And that also has to do with the fact that he doesn't really understand his own talent. So he auditioned for an art school, and his audition was basically my game. So he put together some of the assets that he made for me, then gave it to his art school, like, okay, I want to be here. And then they accepted him based on that. And now he's eternally grateful that I told him exactly what to do, and then he did that, and now he's accepted. So as a bit of a reward, he started concepting the hero, and then just exactly drew me. This is not something I decided at all, but I thought it was funny to keep it in. This is, by the way, concept art, and in the final game, the hero doesn't look that much like me.
Thank you so much. We don't have any more time for the questions, but if you have, you can ask Yoeri in person. Thank you so much for your presentation.
You're welcome.